My name is Patsy. I went to Planned Parenthood when I was a senior in college at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. I come from New York and got an IUD, which I was very nervous about going to Planned Parenthood. I didn't realize that they weren't going to ask me a lot of questions. They weren't going to require a lot of information. They certainly didn't need parental consent. And I had a friend who became pregnant and had to have an abortion. Abortions were illegal at the time, and it was very traumatic for all of us. And so learning about Planned Parenthood and the ease with which you could get help, you could get assistance, you could get advice at Planned Parenthood was a big relief to me and my group of friends in college at the time. And so I've always been grateful to Planned Parenthood for providing that when I was unaware of other resources. And to know that there was a resource like that in the community that was available at little or no charge was amazing. It really was.
No kidding. Was there anything you mentioned, you could get advice to ask questions at Planned Parenthood? Do you remember learning anything during your visit that you didn't know before?
Well, I learned about IUDs and different options of birth control choices. I guess I knew a little bit about it. I wasn't completely a neophyte, but they were very clear and very accepting in giving the advice that they gave.
Nice. And it sounds like avoiding situations like unplanned pregnancies and then abortions was a big part of
it was very significant to somebody who was 20 years old, right? Certainly didn't want to get pregnant.
Did you tell friends or family that you used Planned Parenthood?
I told friends, college friends. I don't think I told my family.
Mm-hmm. What was their response? Friends?
They were relieved, and I think they followed maybe I learned it from them. You know, this is 1963, and now it's 2017, so it was a long time ago. But I think many other people use their service.
So what would you have done if Planned Parenthood weren't available?
Probably just would have continued using condoms and less safe birth control methods.
And is there anything else you'd want people to know?
Just that I think supporting Planned Parenthood is really important for young people, for all people. And I hope everybody will come out in support of Planned Parenthood and their funding.
I'm Nigel, and I went to Planned Parenthood here in Santa Monica, and it was when I moved here around 2010. Yeah. And so I went to Planned Parenthood for STI testing, because I'd never been tested, and actually I did some research to see where you would go to do that kind of thing, and everything that I saw said to go to Planned Parenthood, so which is a bit surprising to me, because I didn't realize that that it was such a wide-ranging place, and so that's where I went, and it was a really easy, good experience actually. The people there were definitely they were able to make the experience seem very, very normal, and that was quite helpful. Yeah.
Did you learn anything during your visit that you didn't know before?
Oh, I don't think so. It was a pretty simple trip. It was just filling out the various check boxes of what to do. Right? Yeah.
You got to find out you didn't have any STIs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
right. Yes.
What would you have done if Planned Parenthood weren't available?
Yeah, so again, I was assuming I wasn't going to go to Planned Parenthood, so I don't know, I guess, I suppose I would have gone to a general practitioner and had to ask them about what to do.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you'd like people to know about Planned Parenthood besides what you mentioned?
Yeah, just that it is really easygoing and safe, and safe feeling, and that they do so many different things.
Oh, did you tell any friends or family that you went?
No, I didn't, but I think not for any particular reason, just something I was doing for me, and so just never really came up anywhere else.
Want to speak to payment?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so I use my normal insurance. And actually it felt kind of good to be able to give them money since since they're very good about not requiring payment. So that was nice.
Nice.
My name's Heather. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and I've been to Planned Parenthood, I think, 4 different times. My first experience was in Tucson. It would have been 1999. I had just started having sex, and I wanted to be on birth control so that I didn't get pregnant. And I'd heard that you could go to Planned Parenthood not only for free, but privately. In fact, I'd heard that they do this cool thing where if they need to call your house, they'll call and pretend to be a friend, just give someone's name. I can't remember what the name was. At the time, I thought that was really neat. That sort of gave it this, like a big sisterly feel that made it feel really safe to go and do. And I had just been thinking about this recently, that even though I have parents that were safe to talk to about this, I didn't tell them, and that ended up feeling fine. It really felt normal to be at Planned Parenthood, and they felt they were very comforting and grounding in that way. And I got birth control, and I went again in Oakland in 2005 or 6, and I also needed to use them at that time because of the free or low cost. I think I paid nothing that particular occasion, but felt really appreciative, so I brought them a stack of my bust magazines and gave them those as sort of an exchange for the services, which they were really pleased to receive, which made me happy. And I think that was also for birth control and STI testing. That particular occasion, I remember really kind of soaking up all the information that was on the walls. They have a lot of informational posters and pamphlets and everything. And I remember lying there waiting for my PAP and trying to study the picture of the female reproductive system, because I was staring at it realizing there was a lot of things that I actually didn't know on that, and I thought that was kind of funny. And the third time that I went, and maybe fourth time, was here in Santa Monica. And that was also just for my annual PAP, and I don't remember anything particular about that. Same kind of just easy, nice experience. Oh, and that time I used my insurance, and I was really pleased to be able to give them insurance money since I had been there at least twice before, and they'd given me services for free.
Hi, my name is Marilyn. I live in Los Angeles, and my experience with Planned Parenthood was in the early 70s. I was about to become a single mother with 2 children, and the IUD, the intrauterine devices, were new, and I wanted to get one. A close friend of mine had gone to a private doctor and had an IUD inserted. And then a month later, she found it in the bedclothes at the bottom of her sheets and learned that she was pregnant. This was very disturbing to her, and she went ahead and had an abortion, which were illegal at that time. So I was frightened. I wanted the IUD, but I wanted to go to someone who had great experience. So at Planned Parenthood, I contacted them. They offered in family planning IUDs, and the physician that came to do them had inserted thousands, was so experienced, and that's what I wanted, someone that really knew what they were doing. So I went to the clinic in Los Angeles that was by 8th in Vermont, next to the Unitarian Church, and I got an IUD, and I left, and I was very happy and pleased, and it stayed in.
Wonderful. Cool. Do you want to say anything about what the staff was like?
In the waiting room, they had desks, and each desk was manned, if that's the correct politically, or woman, by a woman who represented a different type of birth control. So while I was waiting to be called in, I was looking at the various nurses and trying to figure out what each one represented. And there was one with long dangly earrings, and I figured she was the IUD. Then there was one that was very grumpy, so I thought maybe she was coitus interruptus. That was her method. And there was one with a traditional nurse's uniform with a little pillbox hat, so I thought she was the pill lady.
That's so wonderful, Marilyn. Great. Is there anything that you learned during your visit that you didn't know before?
I was treated with kindness and made to feel very welcome, and I knew I was in good hands.
I used Planned Parenthood in the winter of 2016. I went for STD and STI screening. I was entering a new relationship at the time and didn't have insurance, and we both wanted just peace of mind, get everything checked out, make sure we're healthy and safe with each other. I didn't have insurance at the time, and when I looked into things and figured out how I could go about it, Planned Parenthood seemed the best option for people with low income and no insurance. So when I went, everyone was incredibly friendly and professional. They helped me figure out what my payment options were, and I ended up not paying. They didn't treat it like it didn't feel like it was like, next, what's wrong with you kind of situation. They were incredibly polite, incredibly attentive, and made you feel like at home and normal, and that you're just one of the many people who this is normal for. And I had a great experience. I got to, feel safe, healthy, and had peace of mind going into a relationship, which was nice.
Is there anything that you learned during the visit you didn't know before?
Yeah, I mean, they helped, educate, because when you getting screened for STDs, they helped educate on STDs and preventative measures and, what's out there and how to stay safe and all of that, and that was, helpful. Just, any new information is good.
Did you tell your family and friends that you went?
No. My girlfriend knew, because we did it together, actually. And, I mean, it's nice that, sometimes it's just a private thing that doesn't really need to be shared all the time, but I feel like it's an important thing that helps people, and any amount of keeping people healthy and safe and informed is good for everyone, so.
My name is Sandra. I am from Spanaway, Washington, or more commonly known as Seattle, Washington. I went to Planned Parenthood in Puyallup, Washington, the first time when I was, how old was I? I was 17. I had told my mom that I was having sex, and she said, "Oh, okay, we need to go have you taken to a doctor and looked at. And so that was when I was first told about birth control and, safe sex and all of the wonderful STDs that you can now get. And that was my first interaction with them. When I was 19, I was very promiscuous and went to get checked out, just a regular pap at Planned Parenthood, and they did all the testing, and then a week later I get a phone call, and I had gotten chlamydia. And my whole world had just shattered because that's such a stigma. And Planned Parenthood, they really educated me, and they told me that it's treatable. It's not the end of the world. It's also very, very common. And I felt safe, and I felt like my world as I knew it didn't just crash and crumble. And they provided me with the medications, and then that cleared up. However, when you're on those medications, you're not supposed to be having sex because you will get pregnant. And I did. And so immediately I go right back to Planned Parenthood, and I ask about my options. And they tell me that, I am able to continue the pregnancy, I am able to terminate the pregnancy, and I am also able to look into adoption services. At that point in my life, I was not stable or of sound mind at all. And I decided to terminate. And it wrecked me. It was something that I thought was so horrible. And I was a horrible person. And they really were there for me, and they gave me all of my options. I ended up using the pill form abortion, and they were amazing. They held my hand while I cried, and they told me that it's okay to feel the way that I felt, and and I was safe, and it was an easy process, and it's something I don't think I'll ever get over, is the fact that it was just so easy, and it didn't feel easy, and it wasn't something that you just let go or forget of, and I don't know what I would have done if they weren't there. I think in my mind over and over again about what would have happened if I'd have kept that child, and I know in my heart of hearts that that child would have had a horrible life. It would have been abused, or it would have been in a crack house, or it would have been just disregarded because I wasn't able to love a child. I couldn't love myself at that time, and there was no way that I was going to be able to love another person, let alone a poor innocent baby. And when you go to Planned Parenthood and they do the pregnancy test, they also do an ultrasound, and they give you a picture of the ultrasound, and I still have it to this day. I was thinking about bringing it, but I couldn't find it. But it's not something you can just let go of. And I just, I am very grateful to Planned Parenthood. God, I don't know what I would have done. And then 2 years ago, I was just starting a relationship, and I get tested every 6 months because of previous promiscuous behavior that put me at risk. So I get an AIDS test and an STD panel, all of that every 6 months, and I found out that I have herpes. and I was starting a relationship, and it was just completely left field, and I was just lost. I had no idea what to do. Oh my God, this isn't just chlamydia that's just going to go away and millions of people get it. It's herpes. It's with you forever, and millions of people get it, but it's just so much worse. And they did the same thing. They held my hand, and they gave me my resources of medications and how to deal with it, and education in, what does that look like, living with herpes? What do I need to tell my partner? How many partners do I have to tell that I didn't know that I had before that? And, it was so informative and so, I don't even know. It was just amazing that they were able to be there and to have all of that information. And I never once doubted that their information was incorrect or that they didn't know what they were talking about. Of course, I did my own Google searching, but definitely I always know that I can trust in Planned Parenthood and what they have to tell me. And I'm really grateful, because I don't know what my life would look like without them being an option for me. So, yeah. I think the hardest part about that abortion for me was that my sister was pregnant at the same time. And she kept her child, and she had him, and he was born 2 days before mine was supposedly to be due, because they tell you when your due date is, and the date of conception, and those are things and dates that are forever burned in my mind, because every September 4th I will know that I should have a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and that's something that doesn't go away, because in your heart of hearts you could have made a different decision, and life is full of what ifs, but that doesn't mean that just because you've exhausted that what if that you forget about it. You don't wonder, what if I didn't move here? What if I didn't grow up here? What if I didn't have parents? What if I was in the foster system? You have no idea. And having an abortion and giving up a child is not something you will forget. I don't think I'd ever forget about it.
Hi, I'm Heather June Northover. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I've actually never been a patient or client of Planned Parenthood, but I've volunteered there during their Young Professionals Night. I've also volunteered as an HIV test counselor for one of their clinics and did filing. And then I worked briefly as a text-based counselor, where I provided education and answered questions through a text program so that young people could text in with questions, and then we would respond with accurate, confidential information. Yeah.
Any standout moments from that, or things that you ended up being really appreciative you got to teach somebody?
I mean, I used to do health education in schools, so you get a lot of the same questions. A lot of, like, the condom slipped, or I forgot to use a condom. A lot of questions about Plan B at the time. A lot of, like, this seems weird, should I go get it checked out? And the answer is always yes, 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 yes. I think for me, Planned Parenthood is really important because it's a good referral. I've worked in health education in schools and clinic settings, not necessarily at Planned Parenthood. And when talking to young people, or even when I was a young person, Planned Parenthood was in essence sort of like, and this is a weird phrase to use, but sort of like a brand name that meant not abortion, not necessarily reproductive health, not necessarily contraception, but it was really like a brand name for being responsible and confidentiality and services for people in need, especially young people. When you're in high school, your friends are in high school, and people are starting to have sex or explore that area, And then there's concerns about safety. It's just a common reframe is like, well, have you gone to Planned Parenthood, or you should go to Planned Parenthood. And I think that's really important for people and for everyone, but particularly young people. People who don't want to tell their parents that they're having sex or thinking about having sex, who might not have the benefits of an older sister like I did. And also, too, for young people, particularly in non-urban areas, particularly, I would say, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or questioning queer kids, you know, Planned Parenthood stands for like a safe place that they may not have like an LGBT center in some state, you know, where those identities are really stigmatized. And I think a lot of people eventually grow out of Planned Parenthood. They find their own health services. They find places in the communities that they connect to better, but it's sort of a gateway into being responsible and to understanding your body and protecting yourself. I know people who have had abortions at Planned Parenthood, but predominantly a lot of my friends, even friends who I would say, or, you know, identify as being pro-life, have used Planned Parenthood resources because they use it so they don't have to have an abortion.